Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark. Before we get started today, I want to remind you to go over and check out Author Traffic School. If you want to build a platform that really launches your book in a way that serves you and your audience, you can go over and check out our courses at www.authortrafficschool.com. And if you haven't subscribed to Breakthrough Author Magazine, go on over and do that as well. breakthroughauthormagazine.com. We also have a little quiz attached so you can see where your skill set is truly at. So today's guest is a former client of mine. I guess I'll just say client, because once you're my client, you're always my client, whether we're doing business or at times or not. So Steve Kirch is a PhD and the creator of Profit Minds Growth System, and he's a managing partner at Profit Minds LLC. After more than 25 years as a successful manager and leader in high tech, Dr. Stephen Kirch now focuses on his passion for people, processes, and organizations to help entrepreneurs and CEOs take their business to the next level. The Profit Minds Growth System is a unique blend of enhancing profit, accelerating productivity, and building robust business processes for scale, all with the goal of helping his clients scale their businesses and live the life they imagined when they began. Having honed his skills during his three decades at IBM and Intel, two of the most process-driven firms in the world, he developed his own business operating system for scale called BOSS, and has implemented this system into more than 20 organizations. The Catapult Razor program takes this process to the next level and enables creation of world-class companies with its AI-driven KPIs and rhythm of implementation. This allows the leader to focus on what really matters and to drive business improvements. In addition, Steve serves on the board of directors for the Gratitude Network, a leadership development organization which works with social entrepreneurs around the world to enable growth of these innovative companies that are changing the lives of children and youth everywhere. Dr. Kirch also has a passion for music, and I'm going to make him sing, you guys. Wait till you hear his voice. He sings with the San Francisco-based Capella chorus, the Fog City Singers. He has appeared on stage in local theater and company productions, and when not busy with music, you can find him on his bicycle or at the golf course. He's been married to his wife, Donna, for more than 40 years, and they have two wonderfully intelligent and talented daughters who are making their own way in the world. So I can't wait for this. Steve has a lot to say as we move into a recession. People like Steve and what Steve does with Profit Minds is very important to keeping your business alive during a downturn. So stay tuned. Welcome, Steve. I'm really excited to have you back. It's been a couple years since you were on.
Yes, it's been a while, and so much has changed in the world. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be talking about helping small businesses grow.
Yeah. So as promised in the intro, which you didn't get to hear, but everybody else did, we are moving into, and I feel like we've kind of been here for about the last 6 to 9 months, we're moving into a more recessionary period. And I feel like your business is really going to be necessary for people to hold steady and even, eke out a little bit of growth. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you've been through these downturns before.
I have, and I've done it in the corporate setting, and I've done it as an entrepreneur. And the tendency is to be scared. The future is always uncertain, by the way. We are never guaranteed. I mean, and of course, one of my favorite quotes is that the stock market has predicted 15 of the last 10 recessions.
I was thinking more, God, I plan, God laughs.
Well, there is that too. But the tendency is to be fearful in this kind of environment. And if you so there are two choices, right? You can curl up into a ball and you can retrench, and you can say, well, I'm afraid to spend anything. I'm afraid to invest in my company because it might not work. Well, you know, even in good times, that's possible. It might not work. But in bad times, if you take advantage of the, let's say, the slowing economy, right? I'm not going to debate whether or not it's going to be a recession or not, and whether it's officially a recession. Doesn't really matter, right? People feel like things are not going to be great in the future. And if you react to that by pulling back and refusing to invest, you're going to go where the economy goes. If, on the other hand, and historically, if you look, great companies come out of these times of adversity, in part because you're set up for success in the time of adversity. And then when things turn around, and I don't think there's any debate about if things will turn around, the U.S. economy always rebounds. And everybody's confident that at some point, I don't know whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, things will be better. The trajectory will be, so you'll be poised to really take advantage of that. And Juliet, as you correctly pointed out, you may even eke out a little bit of gain as everybody else is retrenching. So this is exactly the time that you need to invest in your business.
Exactly. And you guys, when we say this is the time, it's now before it happens. I did that back when we had the recession in real estate several years ago. I pivoted into foreclosures before they even hit the market. So when everybody else was living in their car, I was getting 3 or 4 listings a week from the asset management company. So I'm saying that because now's the time to think about, I know this is coming, how will I pivot in that sense?
What are those opportunities? Because every small business owner that I know has many more ideas than they're capable of executing.
Yes.
Right. So which shiny object are you going to chase? And obviously I'm not advocating that, but think about what's the opportunity and where's the lever? What's the thing that you can do? Maybe it doesn't require a huge investment. In fact, that's one of those exercises that's really interesting to do, right? When you're thinking about, well, I want to grow in this way. What would you do if there were no constraints? Time, money, resource, whatever, right? And some of those things, just brainstorm with yourself or with your team if you have one. What would I do if I didn't have these constraints? And maybe some of those constraints that you put on are artificial, right? Some of those things that you're thinking are constraints really aren't, because there's a clever way that you hadn't thought of yet of working around it. Or maybe one of your team can come up with a, hey, you know, if we did this, or, you know, we've been working this way for a while and it hasn't really worked. Maybe we drop that and reinvest this other way. There's lots of options if you stay open. But if you go into that survival brain, right, your executive function disappears.
It does. And I do remember in the last downturn, I had a real estate coach, and the one thing they did to eliminate a lot of the fear was stop watching news.
That's a great one.
Yeah, stop watching news, you guys, because the news, they get paid for those clicks. They get paid to put sheer terror and fear into you.
And if you can't give it up completely, say, I'm only going to look once a week. So I sort of stay up with what's going on in the world, because I don't like to be isolated either. But certainly looking at the news first thing in the morning when you get up, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Like,
because
oh my God.
It sets your whole day based on, because again, they're there to sensationalize and to put the most negative spin on stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Stay away from the news. Stay away from your email too, by the way, but that's a different problem.
Yeah, that is a different.
First thing in the morning, I recommend to all of my clients, do not look at your email first thing.
Really?
And the reason for that is because now you're working on somebody else's priorities.
Oh, that's so true. And I'm one of those, I'm up at my desk at usually 4:30, 5 o'clock, so I can answer and get out before they even get up.
Yes. But I'll tell you a story. The last year that I was working at Intel, I realized that, my what we call biological prime time, the time that I'm most creative and most able to do stuff was the time that I first got into work, early in the morning, right? Before people could bother me, because most of my team didn't arrive until 9:30, maybe even 10 o'clock. They would work until late. But I got in 7:30, 8 o'clock. After I arrived, I went to the gym, worked out, and came to my desk. And I was spending the first couple hours working on my email. And I realized, that's not the most creative thing or most, strategic kind of thinking that I need to do for my organization. And so I told my boss, I told all my peers, and I told my team. I had 40 people working for me at that point in time. There were 20 of us in Santa Clara, and the other 20 were in Costa Rica. And I told them, I'm not going to look at my email until 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. But if you have something that needs my attention, has to happen before that time. If you want to send me an email, don't just send me the email, call me or text me. Right. And then I'll respond, and then I'll look at it. And in the last year I was working at Intel, you know how many times that happened?
How many times?
Once.
Yeah.
And I absolutely knocked it out of the park my last year at Intel, because I was doing those things that I needed to do for my job as opposed to what other people wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I blocked off a couple of those mornings with no meetings. I refused to take meetings in those spots so that I had that dedicated time. And by the way, that one time that one manager asked me to look at something, it probably could have waited, but I honored his request. People are not sitting at their computer waiting for you to respond.
Exactly. That's the problem. And I put it away so I can't hold it up because I was trying to be responsible. But it's the same thing with your phone. I mean, this is a great point. When I knock off for the afternoon, I maybe look once or twice, but I don't stay attached to that phone because I will feel like I need to answer that email. So good points. So most of our audience is, they're authors and they're coaches and speakers. And as a publishing company, it is really easy for me to establish and work with KPIs. Can you explain KPIs and how you see them, that coaches can do a better job managing and understanding where they're at?
Sure. KPIs are critical. I spent, 30 years in corporate. Yes, I'm old enough to have been an entrepreneur for a long time and 30 years in corporate. So
am I. This is now the old folks, the senior citizens.
But both of those companies really paid attention to to measurements, very process driven. And so I learned a lot. And since then, I've really helped my clients who are mostly in, I have several coaches. I have folks that do, I have a CPA, right? What kind of KPIs there? First of all, what's really important is there are two different kinds of measurements of success. There are lead measures and lag measures. Lag measures are the things that you tell if it has been successful at the end of a project or at the end of a quarter or at the end of a year or whatever it is, that this is the measure of success, right? When we're done. How will we know if we were successful? The other kind, the leading indicators, are the things that you need to turn into KPIs. Key performance indicators. They are what you do to get to that result. Classic example, people who want to lose weight, people who want to control their weight. The people who are successful, the lagging measures, and by the way, lagging measures are usually easier to get your handle on, and this is where I think a lot of your clients, your coaches will struggle. The lag measures are easy. Step on the scale, right? That's what has happened to cause you to weigh what you weigh. The leading indicators have two characteristics. They are predictive of the outcome, and they are influenceable. So people who are successful at controlling or losing weight look at two things. They measure every day two things: diet and exercise. Both of those things are predictive. You eat less, you will weigh less. And what you eat determines how much you weigh, not only the number of calories, but what kinds of calories, right? But there's a lot of science around that. And the other one is exercise, right? The more exercise you get, the more steps you take, whatever it is that you use as your measure of exercise. How many minutes do you do cardio or whatever it is, right? That's also predictive. And both of those things are influenceable. You can decide how much stuff you put in this hole.
Right.
And you can decide how often you exercise. Right. And those are the things that will lead you to the success. Right. So, and I think every successful salesperson knows this, right? Yes, your boss measures your success by how many sales you made, how many dollars you brought in. But the successful salespeople track how many calls they make.
Exactly. Yes.
It's what do you do on the day to day, right? So as a coach, what do you measure?
For me, I measure a couple things. I look at every week how many potential closes do I have on my calendar. So I fit in how many potential new clients do I have on my calendar. If I go a whole week without one, I'm pretty like, whoa, what's going on here? So I usually aim for 3 to 4 every week, because if you don't have that, you have nothing to close, which means you have no revenue. I will mention when we're talking about that, that was one of the most difficult things when I first started real estate, is you would get in the thick of a deal and you'd be working on that and not realizing that you still needed to be prospecting and bringing in those future deals at the same time. So you really have to find that balance in there and keep it all going.
That's absolutely correct. I had a client who came to me. He said, "I have a pipeline problem." I said, "Really? What's the pipeline problem?" He says, "Well, one month I have 10 prospects, and the next month I have 30, and then the next month I only have 10, and then the next month I have 30, and it's just cycling like this." I said, "You don't have a pipeline problem. What you have is a productivity problem. What you have is you're not working on the right stuff." And it was exactly that, because when he had 30 prospects, he didn't have time to do any prospecting. So the next month he had no pipeline.
Yeah.
And you got to keep it going a little bit every day. And I love it, or every week, right? One of them, how many calls do you have with prospects? That's a great one. Another one is, how many conversations are you having with referral partners?
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Track that. If there, do you spend, 10 or 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn? But no more than that, with specific things that you want to do, right? Now, don't get lost in the feeds.
Right.
Go out onto LinkedIn and, 10 or 15 or a half an hour a day and respond to all of the stuff that's coming at you and comment on a couple of posts, those kinds of things, so that you're out there, right? If LinkedIn is where your people are, right? As a coach, I would recommend that.
Yeah, most of mine are. My authors are experts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So are you, what are you doing to build the infrastructure? Are you posting on LinkedIn? Do you have somebody helping you to do that? Do you have to do it yourself? Once a week, I spend, an hour or whatever it is, to get my LinkedIn stuff ready to go. Those kinds of things, right? So, but those are all trackable. Another one I would really encourage people to do is having an hour of focus time every day. Track that. What are you doing to learn and grow? And don't just say, "Oh, this is going to be my hour of focus time." The beginning of the week, figure out what you're going to do in each of those and make that commitment to yourself, but track it.
Mhm.
Here's another one that I've recently started doing. And that is I figure out what the top 3 things that I need to do. This is not a new thing for me, but what are the top 3 things that I need to do for the day, right? And then at the end of the day, I'm scoring myself as to how well I did on that.
Really? So let me
Right.
just show you guys something here. I do this. I buy one of these every year and I do exactly the same thing. And mine is if I have to take something off this day and put it on the next, I haven't been as productive as I need to be.
So I don't worry about the entire list being done because my list is always, everybody's list is way too long.
Yeah, it's always there.
It's the top 3, right? And there's one must do for today, right? What's the must do for today? And then I score myself just a scale of 1 to 10. The other thing that I do as a part of that practice is I celebrate, what are 3 things that I did well today? That's the way I close out my day. And I have a gratitude practice in the morning as well, which helps to overcome that, looking at the negative news stuff, right? Get your head in that grateful space. We have so much to be grateful for. Even if it's just a roof over our head, food in the refrigerator, a nice cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you drink.
That you have, I have a gratitude practice in the morning as well. I do a 10-10 every morning, which is super helpful to keep me on my future goals as well. Yeah. So
I actually, when my gratitude practice has changed recently, I actually do 3. I do something in the past that I'm grateful for.
Oh.
Something in the present that I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And an anticipatory gratitude of something in the future. And I put myself in that future state and feel the gratitude associated with that event or that consequence coming true.
Oh, I like that. I actually, when I get clients who are really having a tough time, I make them sit down and do the 10-10 because I think when you're in those moments where you're maybe frustrated with your business, you're not seeing the gratitude. So by writing down those 10 things you're grateful for, it's kind of funny to watch people because they'll be like, I only got 5. You got to get 10. Like, what else? What else is there? And then the other 10 is always what you intend to manifest. And I really watch as I do that, I will start to see those things come into focus. Even if it's something completely like this will never happen, just that putting it out there, you start to see those baby steps of it happening. So I want to go back to the pipeline for a minute.
Sure.
Pipeline, one of the things I used to notice from real estate is, I was I was the top producer in my office. Other agents would come in and they'd go, oh, I've got 60 leads. And I'd say, how many of them are in your car? How many have signed a contract? And so the point of that was, they were coming in because I was the big dog and they wanted to brag that they had, more going on than I did. But the truth of it was you have to be realistic about, are those scraps of paper or are they real prospects? And I think that's true in any business that you're in. You have to you can't just say, oh, I have 60 people interested after you speak in an event. You have to really find out who is truly, and then be willing to let your ego get out of it and say, okay, so yeah, I got 60 scraps of paper, but I've got 5 solid leads. So I just wanted to put that out there about the pipeline, because I think that being realistic about what your pipeline really is made up of is essential.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked a little bit about this before we came on the air, about referral partners and power partners, and obviously the value of a warm referral is orders of magnitude better than a cold lead.
Yes.
And so it's really important that and this is, again, this is one of the things I track, how many conversations am I having? In fact, when I use my iPad you can't see it, but I use that for my planner, and I have a little template that I create every week. And it has a little score thing. I check off what I've done, but appointments with referral partners are in a different color than appointments with clients, or things that I'm doing with my wife, or I have color codes for different activities, and so those things stand out, and I can look back at the end of the week and I say, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? How many, right? So I can score myself. So yeah, those referral relationships, looking for people who service the same kinds of clients that you do, maybe before, maybe after, maybe even at the same time. You say you're a coach and they already have a coach. Well, Steph Curry has probably 5.
Yeah, I don't actually like to work people who have multiple coaches because we get too many ideas in the pot.
Yeah, okay, fine. But the point is, don't preclude talking to somebody because they already have a coach. Maybe it's not now. Or maybe it's, that person works on this and somebody else works on that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you need to be coordinated if you're going to be a person that has multiple coaches, right? Or you're going to coach somebody who has another coach. But the point is, pay attention to those referral relationships, cultivate them. Don't just do one conversation with a referral partner. If they're really a power partner and they're really, somebody that's capable of sending you a significant number of referrals, get with them on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. One of the best networkers that I know, he keeps a list of his top 30.
Nice.
And he has a conversation with them once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go several months without referring anybody to him, then you get dropped and somebody else gets added. But he cultivates that, and and he has an assistant that just knows that he needs to rotate through these people
and books it
and books it for him.
Books it.
Yeah. So something to think about, right? How many referral relationships do you need? I mean, maybe you don't need 30, but I would certainly say, you ought to have at least 10 solid referral power partners.
Yeah, I agree with that. As part I used to coach for the joint venture Inner Circle, and that is all about a click. Like, hey, Steve, I'm going to send traffic to this. Power partnerships are much different in the sense that you are connected to them. For me, I don't have a ton of business that I can give to a lot of other people, but instead I will take those people and they will be in our magazine every month. So I give them opportunities in other ways, but my business since starting the Dames has gone from about 50% to I'm probably 95% referral now. And it's good and it's bad because I don't market. I'm the marketer who doesn't market much anymore. I know how, I try new things, but it's not, my focus is developing those relationships. And I'm just going to take it a step further, Steve, which is when I talk to my partners. Some of them I talk to once a week because we're exchanging business. Others I talk to once a month or once a quarter. But they're like family. It's not just, hey, give me business. It's, how are the kids? How are, Tracy Hazard, I talked to yesterday. We talked about the kids. We talked about the business. You have to really set aside time to really be able to chat and know each other and care.
Right. I mean, look, we're all in this business to help other people. Mm-hmm. And that takes relationship. I have great relationships with my clients as well. But that's nurtured over time.
Yeah.
And you have to take the time. You have to care. And that takes, and that you can't be efficient with that. I'm a productivity guy who's telling you not to be efficient.
But relationships aren't about, like, if you were efficient with your wife, would you have been married for 40 years? Probably not.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can't treat that with efficiency. That has to be, your clients and those referral partners have to be actual relationships. So yeah, I get the efficiency. I will tell you, there was a power partner or a potential power partner a while back. And this is a great example of what not to do, Steve. She had the call with me, and then, power partners, okay, I think we can do this. And then she started sending me a monthly newsletter about what I could sell for hers. And I never had another conversation. And it's very funny because I don't do any business with her. I don't pay any attention to her. Like that, we have different definitions of what a relationship is. And to me, a relationship is not, oh, hey, here's some stuff you can sell for me.
Right. Yeah. Now, I will do that on occasion for the right kind of partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they have a significant offering coming up, I don't have a problem with sending it out. But it's more around when I'm in conversation with somebody at another networking event, right? Where they say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who does this, or I'm interested in that, or here's a problem that I have. Oh, I know somebody who can help you with that. That's the way, I know some people go to networking events with the idea of I'm going to get to sell.
Yeah.
No, because if you do that, first of all, you're going to, how many people go to networking events with the idea that I'm going to buy?
Probably none. Probably,
nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody does that, right? So if you're going to, you're going to turn off the people that are there. If you're going there with the idea of I'm going to sell all of this, right? Uh-huh. But you also are limiting it to the number of people who are in the room. It's a simple math thing, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to a networking event and there's 50 people in the room, and you're trying to sell to them, you have 50 prospects. If you're trying to sell through them or get them excited about what you offer and what might you offer to their network, then you have the network of their network, right? And that number is much, much larger. Even if you only connect with 4 or 5 people, you have their network that is available then to you to make a sale, if again that's what your goal is.
Yeah, that's that's sort of a cautionary tale for you guys, though, because if you see that that's what's going on in your networking group, that may not be the right group. When I lived in California, I was actually president of a group, and I went in and tried to make some changes because it had ended up being a morning breakfast, and everybody was like, just give me business. So I tried some growth tactics, which they pushed back on, and I quit as president. I quit the whole group because I looked around that, during that time period and said, none of these people are growing. These are not my people. And funny enough, I wish I could sit in front of them today, because I actually said at one point during a mastermind that I had set up a mastermind once for one of those events a month. And I said, I want to start an online business. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to, I had this vision for what I wanted my business to be in 2010. And I kid you not, they all looked at me like I had 2 heads. And that was the day I quit. And I hired a former real estate coach of mine who is now a business coach. Yeah. And I went out and hired him that day. I'm like, nobody around me is growing. How am I going to grow? Because you have to be, I feel like those networking groups, when you're a part of it, if everyone is growing, then you're growing by just being there and listening to ideas and being with them.
Yeah. And it's almost more important, what's their mindset? Mm-hmm. Right? Do they share that growth mentality, whether or not they're actually growing. Yeah, it's important, but I think honestly, from my perspective, it's the mindset that's more important. You know, can I learn something from these people? Are they interested in learning what I know? Can I share with them? Can I make everybody better? Can we grow? And your business will grow as a result of that. But the mindset is so important. I mean, that's part of why I call profit minds,
Yeah.
right? It's about profit, yes, but it's also about the mindset of growth. What am I going to do differently today? And it's not about perfection. It's about progress.
I love that you said that, because I think perfection is the biggest sabotage tool we all tend to engage in. I'm busy. Well,
Yeah.
busy isn't bringing in revenue.
Busy isn't productive, right? That's actually one of the signature talks that I give, right? Are you busy or just are you productive or just busy, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell one of my favorite stories about perfection. When I was first studying the 7 Habits, I've been a trained facilitator of that for like 25 years. And when the woman came over from Utah, from the Covey Institute, it wasn't yet the Franklin Covey Company at that point, to do the Train the Trainer, she told the story of her frustration with implementing the 7 Habits in her life. She was really struggling, walking down the halls at the Covey Institute, and turned the corner and literally ran into Dr. Covey. She was distracted. She wasn't paying attention. She was off in her own world. And they started having a conversation. And she got around and she asked him, because she was really frustrated, she asked him, well, how good are you at these 7 habits? And he said, I'm at about 35%.
Wow.
And, right, this is the guy that wrote the book. Now,
Yeah.
okay, you can argue maybe his standards are a little higher than everybody else's, but 35%? So, yeah, it's not about perfection.
No, it's not at all. But you have to be asking the question. So while we were talking, I was just looking up, I have a note that I see every single morning, and I've been very close to 7 figures for the last 2 years. And so my note up here says, what needs to change to gross that? Because something needs to change. And if I don't think about what needs to change, it's not going to change. I'm just going to keep with the status quo. Yeah. So, I think you will constantly need to be asking yourself that question about what needs to change, because you're not going to get what is that Einstein thing about the same results doing the same thing?
That's the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah, the definition of insanity. So that's one of those things I have to look at every morning. What needs to change here? And funniest thing, a couple of weeks ago, when I had written that, somebody came in to collaborate with me and said, what needs to change? Why don't I just buy your company? And I was literally like, what? Like, I hadn't thought of that one before. But you'd be amazed when you ask the questions, what appears?
Yeah. That's actually, again, part of that practice that I have at the end of the day is, celebrating 3 things that I did well, scoring myself. What could I have done to make it better, to score higher? And what am I going to do differently tomorrow, right? Based on that learning. And then, the thing that I'm focusing on in terms of what are the top 3 things for, the day ahead. It's, given where I want to be, and I use a 3-year target, what's the thing I need to do today that's going to move the needle on that? And that's my must do for the day.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've ever read it, but there's just a life-changing book for me in real estate was Eat That Frog. Because that what you're talking about too, if you procrastinate with that, so always taking that thing that you hate that's not moving your company forward that you must do and putting it at the top of your list every morning and getting it out of the way is definitely helpful too, because we all have things we avoid. We all, like, even if you're not a procrastinator, there's something you're avoiding.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There is. So okay, so before you tell us where to find you, you got to sing us a song. Tell us about you're actually part of you're part of a bigger group now. I think before you were part of a quartet, weren't you?
Yeah, I've been in and out of quartets. I've been in choruses. I sing now with the Fog City Singers out of San Francisco. Okay. If you like men's a cappella music, there are very few groups in the world that are better than us. We're in the top 10 in the Barbershop Harmony Society on a consistent basis. About, I don't know, right now, I think we're at about 30, 35 guys. And we were the smallest chorus to make the top 10 in last year's international. But the sound that we make is amazing. And we don't do just barbershop. So
we gotta put him on the spot.
Yeah, I got to think about this. I've been working on some music because I'm going to be doing an extreme quartetting weekend with my daughter, who also sings barbershop, in Boston, coming up in a couple of weeks. And that's a really interesting activity. 25 people on each part. You get our 10 or 11 songs that we have to learn cold, right? So you can sing them by yourself in a quartet. And then you arrive and you get randomly assigned into a quartet.
Oh, wow. So hold on, with Capella, you don't have music. You make the music, right?
No. We have charts. We have sheet music. We have sheet music. It's no instruments.
No, okay, yes.
A cappella, actually, the derivation of that is for the chapel. Because the sanctuary had an organ, but the chapel did not. So a cappella is really for the chapel, which means unaccompanied. It became synonymous with unaccompanied. So it's just voices. So, boy, the first one that popped into my head is As Long As I'm Singing. As long as I'm singing, the world's all right and everything's ringing. As long as I'm singing my song.
There you go, folks. Not only do you get business advice here, you get music. Steve, where can we find you if we want to find out more about what Profit Minds does and how you can help? Because you have a really unique structure that almost anybody can afford to get in and grow.
That's right. So the thing that makes Profit Minds unique is that, not only can we find significant profit growth, but we can do it in a price point that's affordable for almost any small business. Mm-hmm. And then we use our 75 years of collective business experience to help implement that process, because strategy is worthless if it's not implemented. Best place to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Go to profitminds.net is our website. And you can find things there. I'm in the process of revamping the website to talk more about other offerings in the Profit Minds growth system. Mm-hmm. We don't just do profit growth; it's also productivity. And I recently partnered with an organization that will really help businesses scale using the Rockefeller habits to really and putting KPIs in place. With using some AI to create these KPIs for these businesses that are really ready to take their business to the next level and really give you that access to that dream that you had when you started your business. You didn't get into business to get a glorified job, which is what most entrepreneurs have, right?
Yeah.
Do you own your business, or does your business own you?
Yeah. I think I own my business, and I can't wait for spring to get here so I can golf all the time. That's how I know I own my business.
That's right. That's right. For my wife and I, it's travel. We did 3 weeks in Europe. We did 2 weeks in Hawaii. We did a week in the Smokies. We've done, during the pandemic, we did 3 weeks in camping around Utah.
Well,
we've just,
thanks for stopping by. I'm in Utah.
I know. We were busy.
I'm sure you were. Utah was open, you guys. I actually did a lot of Wyoming, South Dakota, because I haven't lived here long enough to really get out and explore. So I left Utah for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here today. Reach out to Steve. If you want to keep your momentum going in the business, this is a great way to go. And thank you very much for being on.
Thank you, Juliet. Really appreciated the time. Always fun to talk with you.